there, Ruthie here, and welcome back to my channel. Rosh Hashanah, or the Jewish New Year, is next week. And of course, we are going to be celebrating with a big dinner, like almost any holiday. So today, I'm going to be testing some key recipes that I hope to have on our Rosh Hashanah dinner, and figured I would show you what I'm making. So first and foremost, we are definitely going to make a challah, very traditional for Rosh Hashanah, except for Rosh Hashanah, we actually make them as a round challah. I'm actually going to make two versions of round challahs that I'm going to share with you all. Using my KitchenAid mixer, I'm gonna go ahead and combine my water, yeast, and sugar until everything is really nice and dissolved. You wanna make sure you get those nice bubbles in your mixture, and that lets you know that A, your yeast is activated, but everything is really well mixed. So give it a nice good mix. Also, don't worry, all the details of all the recipes I'm making today are in the description box below, so make sure you give that a check out. But once your yeast is nice and bubbly, let's go ahead and add 2 eggs to that mixture, and I typically add 1 egg at a time just to make sure there are no blood spots or anything like that. So we'll add our 2 eggs, and we'll add our oil at this time as well. Once all of that is combined, we're gonna go ahead and start adding our flour. You wanna add 1 cup at a time, and at the end of this recipe, I typically add about 4.5 cups. But again, add 1 cup at a time, give it a little mix, and then add your next one. Also, once I add 2 cups is typically when I will add my salt. I just feel like if you add it too early, your yeast doesn't really like it. So I kind of add it typically after my 2nd cup of flour. Now, usually towards the end, or when I have just about a cup of flour left, I will go ahead and switch to the knitting hook. I think this just works out better and kind of actually kneads your dough, but it doesn't work as well in the very beginning. So I typically switch it halfway through. And you know your dough will be ready once it kind of starts sticking to the edges and coming off. Then it's nice and perfect. And one of my favorite things is to unplug the KitchenAid, raise it up, and watch the dough kind of slide right off. Now that my dough is done, I'm gonna go ahead and transfer it to a well-oiled bowl and just let it rise. You wanna kind of let it rise for at least an hour, but if you have longer, go ahead, give it some time. I will mix it a little bit in the oil, and then I will take a damp paper towel and just cover it. So after my dough has risen for a bit, I'm gonna divide it into 2. This recipe makes enough for 2. The first one we're gonna split into 3 and just do a regular braid, and then the second one we're gonna split into 6 and do a little bit of a fancier version. So let's get started. I'm just gonna split this into 3 and do a regular braid. So you're gonna just roll it into 3. We're gonna bake both loaves in a round tin, keeping with the round challah, but for this one, we're gonna put a little ramekin in the middle and then wrap our braid around it. This way you can go ahead and put like a honey dish in the middle or something like that. I will say my ramekin was a little bit too big, so I wish I had a smaller one, but it still worked out just well. For the next one, we're gonna go ahead and divide it into 6 balls and then roll those out the same way we did the first one. Now we're gonna attempt to make a round challah. And for this one, we'll do 3 horizontal and 3 vertical. And you kind of just want to weave them, right? One over the other, one under, and then you will have basically 4 squares of 3, and those each you will braid as a regular braid. So go around your thing and braid each one individually. Then once you've braided each one individually, then you will go ahead and kind of tuck them in under each other in a clockwise. And then go ahead and grab some foil and make a little ball and put that underneath, and it will give your challah much more height than just putting it in there. You can tuck it in a little bit, but don't worry, as it rises before you bake it and as you bake it, it will become really round, I promise. Once you let it rise for about an hour, go ahead and make a little bit of an egg wash and just really brush it all over your challahs. You really want to coat them nice and well. So I did that for each of them, and then you'll just want to put whatever seasoning or topping you want on top. My go-to is Everything But the Bagel, so for my first one, I went ahead and covered it with Everything But the Bagel. And since this is Rosh Hashanah and we want to really wish us a sweet and happy new year, for my second one, I did a little bit of cinnamon and some sugar on top. You'll put these two challahs in your oven at 325 for about 20 minutes, and then I usually, when it's a few minutes before, I will turn up the heat to 350 and then bake it until golden brown, and typically it ends up being about 25 minutes. The main thing is you want to go ahead and use your thermometer and make sure the inside of your challah reaches 190 degrees Fahrenheit. This is the way you can make sure your challah is fully cooked. I've had times where it looks beautiful on the outside, but on the inside it's not cooked all the way, so making sure it reaches that nice temperature is key. And with the one where you stuck the little foil inside, you'll turn it over, use your scissors in my case to take out the foil, and then I actually put it upside down back in my oven for just like 2 more minutes just to bake that inside. In the meantime, I'll go ahead and take my other challah and flip it over, and you can see my ramekin in the middle. I'll pop that out, and then I will flip it over, and actually you can use the same ramekin or a different one and fill it with some honey, and there you have your honey in the middle with your challah. I absolutely love making charcuterie boards, and any excuse I have to make one, of course I'm going to be making one. And I thought Rosh Hashanah was like the perfect time to do it. Rosh Hashanah is all about dipping apples into honey, but we're going to take that up a notch. First off, make sure you get lots of different flavors of apples. Today I only have Granny Smith and a Honeycrisp, but I think this is a perfect time to get a bunch of different apples. Last year I did a fun tasting for my kids with all the different types of apples. It was pretty cool. And quality honey. Of course, got some pomegranates, crackers, cheeses. Anyway, it's gonna be delicious, and I'm so excited. All right, let's put this thing together. I will start with a half cut up pomegranate, and then I typically will go to my cheeses. I just like to figure out where exactly I want to put those and then build around them. For this tray, I used 3 types of cheeses. I started with a cheddar cheese, and I usually just crumble this up with my hands. Next, I got this spicy Gouda. It was really good. And I think it might have been a mix of 2 cheeses. Anyways, it was delicious. And I will slice this up. My go-to place for all my cheeses is Trader Joe's. I feel like their selection is so good, and you just can't go wrong. I've never tried a cheese there that I absolutely hated. But these I will cut up into triangles, and then I will switch the order. And of course, I got a brie. I mean, we're gonna have honey, and brie and honey are just a perfect match. So next, let's get a little bit of that honey, put it in a dish, but then I also got some honey to put on top of the brie. Yum. Now that we got all our cheeses out, I will go ahead and move on to my fruit. And I just kind of like to play around with the colors. I got these beautiful green figs from Trader Joe's, so I put some of those. And of course, we are putting all our apples, and I put them in a few sections. I played around with the different colors. I just keep building from there. Now we're gonna go ahead and add some of our crackers, and I typically like to put those in different spots on my tray, and different types of crackers. And then we'll add, of course, some dried fruit. So I got these dried apricots, and my secret to any charcuterie tray in my house is the candy pecans. I mean, these things are so delicious. It's a must in my charcuterie tray. And at the very end, I just like to put a little bit of rosemary or other fresh herbs just to add a little greenery, and this is how it came together. For our last recipe, we are making super simple mini apple pies, and these were delicious. I'll link the recipe down below. I cut mine in half because I only was testing these out, so I only made 6, but just so you know, this recipe does call for 12. We are gonna go ahead and start with some store-bought pie crust because we're making things a little bit easier for ourselves. We'll roll it out a little bit and then cut it into 6 circles using a cookie cutter. Then go ahead and grab your muffin tin and spray it a little. And we'll place our pie dough inside each of the muffin tins, just pressing a little bit so it fills in nicely. Next, you're gonna grab some apples. I used a half of a Honeycrisp and a half of a Granny Smith. And again, I cut mine in half, so I think this recipe calls for about 1 of each. Once you peeled your apples, go ahead and cut them up into small pieces. To combine our mixture, we'll put our apples, some sugar, some spices like nutmeg, a little bit of flour, we'll add some cinnamon and vanilla extract, and then we'll give that a nice good mix. While you're making your mixture, you do want to keep your pie in the fridge, but once you're ready, go ahead and take it out of the fridge and then scoop a little bit at a time. And I feel like this filled out pretty nicely. I did add a little bit on top, but it was just the perfect amount, so I think the apples were spot on. And then lastly, we are gonna go ahead and want to put a little bit of pie on top. Now here, it's really how you want to do it, but I used my extra dough, rolled it out a little bit, and then I cut it into strips, and then again used a similar basket weave kind of pattern on top to kind of cover my mini pies. Now we'll bake them at a 425-degree oven for about 20 minutes to 25 minutes, and then take them out of the oven, let them cool a little bit, but you do want to serve them warm, and best I recommend with some vanilla ice cream and caramel sauce on top. That is really good. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video and you made all these yummy things. If you did, don't forget to tag me on Instagram. I would love to see all the yummy things. And I wish you and your family a very happy Jewish New Year and Shana Tova. And I'll see you at my next one. Bye.